Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Language Broker English Lesson 14.1. I hope your English lessons are going well. If you need assistance, leave me a message in the comments below. Today, we learn contractions. Contractions are a shortened form of a phrase that is used in everyday English. Together we will learn, memorize, and practice. Before we begin this lesson, you have to go back and watch lesson 6.1 on subject pronouns. Watch lesson 7.2 on irregular present tense verb conjugation, and lesson 7.5, future tense verb conjugation. After you watch all three of those videos, you can come back and learn contractions. Let's get started by reviewing the English subject pronouns. The English subject pronouns are I, you, he, she, it, we, you for a group of two or more persons that you are talking to, and they for a group of two or more persons that you are talking about. Now let's review the present tense conjugation of the verb to be. I am. You are. He is. She is. It is. We are. You are. They are. Okay, good job. Now let's see how these words are put together to form contractions. So the words I am, right? I am happy. I am sad. Instead of saying I am, you can combine the two words, delete the A, add an apostrophe, and say the word I'm. 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 So you can say I am, or you can say I'm. Let's look at the words you are. Instead of saying you are, you can combine the two words, delete the A, add an apostrophe, and say your. 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 So you can say you are or your. Next, let's look at he is. Instead of saying he is, you can combine the two words, delete the I, add an apostrophe, and say he's. 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 Let's look at she is. Instead of saying she is, you can drop the I, put the words together, use an apostrophe, and say she's. 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 It is. It is. Instead of saying it is, you can put the two words together, drop the I, add an apostrophe, and say it's. 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 Okay, let's look at we are. Instead of saying we are, you can put the two words together, delete the A, add an apostrophe, and say we're. 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 So instead of saying we are, you can just say we're. Next, let's look at you are. We've done this before. So instead of saying you are, you can just say you're. You're. Finally, let's look at they are. Instead of saying they are, you can put the two words together, delete the A, add an apostrophe, and say they are. They are. They are. All right, let's look at some examples. This is going to take some getting used to, so you'll have to just learn it, memorize, and practice, 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 practice a lot. Let's look at this example. I am tired. I am tired. I am tired. Instead of saying I am, you can simply say I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. Let's look at another example. You are tired. You are tired. You are tired. Instead of saying you are tired, you can simply say you're tired. You're tired. You're tired. What about this sentence? Anne is tired. Anne is tired. We cannot make a contraction out of the words Anne is, so what we have to do first is change Anne to a pronoun. How do we do that? Good job. You say she is tired. She is tired. She is tired. Now, instead of saying she is tired, you can simply say she's tired. She's tired. She's tired. Okay, good job. Good job. We're going to take it slow and jump into the next contraction. Let's look at the present tense conjugation for the verb have. I have. You have. He has. She has. It has. We have. You have. They have. Now let's look at how we make contractions out of these phrases. Instead of saying I have, you can put the two words together, delete the H and the A, add an apostrophe and say I've. 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 Next, let's look at you have. Instead of saying you have, you can put the two words together, delete the H and the A, add an apostrophe and say you've. 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 Okay, so he has, the contraction is going to be the same as he is. So you combine the two words and say he's. 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 Same as she has. If you say she's, it could mean she is or she has. So be careful. same as it has. If you say it's, that means it is or it has. When speaking English, you will know which it is based on the context of the sentence. It's a bit tricky and a little advanced for now, so just know that those contractions are the same and we will learn how to use them in a more advanced lesson in the future. For now, let's just move on to the next contraction. We have. We have. If you put the two words together, delete the HA, add an apostrophe, you have weave. 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 Next, you have you have. We've already done this, so you know the contraction for you have is you've. 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 Next, they have. They have. Instead of saying they have, put the two words together, delete the HA, add an apostrophe, and say they've. 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 Let's look at some examples. I have been awake all night. I have been awake all night. I have been awake all night. Instead of saying I have, you can say I've been awake all night. I've been awake all night. I've been awake all night. If you wanted to say they have been awake all night, you can combine the two words and say they've been awake all night. Okay, I see that you're getting the hang of this. Once you actually know what you're doing, it's not too hard. So let's look at one more verb. We will look at the future tense verb will. Remember, will is conjugated as the following. I will. You will. He will. She will. It will. We will. You will. They will. Also remember, after you use will, you have to put the verb that indicates what happens in the future. Go back and review lesson 7.5 if you're not sure how to use the verb will. As for now, let's move on how to make contractions out of the words and phrases I will, you will, he will, she will, it will, we will, and they will. So instead of saying I will, you can put the two words together, delete the W and the I, add an apostrophe, and say I'll. 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 Next, instead of saying you will, you can just say you'll. 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 Next, instead of saying he will, you can say he'll. 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 Instead of saying she will, you can say she'll. 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 Next, instead of saying it will, you can say it'll, 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 it'll. Instead of saying we will, you can say we'll, we'll, we'll. As mentioned before, instead of saying you will, you simply say you'll. And finally, instead of saying they will, you can combine the two words, delete the WI, add an apostrophe, and simply say they'll, they'll, they'll. Let's look at some examples. I will go home soon. I will go home soon. I will go home soon. Instead of saying I will, you can simply say I'll go home soon. I'll go home soon. I'll go home soon. Let's look at this example. Jerry will be tired. Jerry will be tired. We can't make a contraction out of Jerry will. So we have to change Jerry to a pronoun. How do we change Jerry to a pronoun? That's right. You say he will be tired. He will be tired. He will be tired. Now, instead of saying he will be tired, let's use the contraction. He'll be tired. He'll be tired. He'll be tired. Good job, good job. I see you are slowly still getting the hang of it. Once you get the hang of it, it's not so bad. Let's look at one more example. We will go home soon. We will go home soon. We will go home soon. Instead of saying we will, we can simply say we'll go home soon. We'll go home soon. We'll go home soon. Actually, I do have one more bonus example for you just so that you are getting used to saying these words. They will need help. They will need help. They will need help. Do you remember how to say they will as a contraction? Yes, they'll need help. They'll need help. They'll need help. All right, fantastic job, fantastic job. You learned contractions today. I know it can be a little difficult, but you have to practice, memorize, and then practice some more, because the more you practice, the better you become. That is all for today. Please click like, click subscribe. Go to the next lesson where we will learn more contractions. As always, I enjoy learning English with you. Have a great and wonderful day. Bye.